So welcome back. Thank you all for being on time. I'm sure we are all enjoying this morning, learning and thinking about new ideas. And we now prepare to receive our third speaker, Maria Rocha. Maria has a bachelor's degree in liberal arts from the University of Lisbon in Portugal. She also has a bachelor's degree in philosophy from the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas Angelicum, where she is currently pursuing her master's degree, or licenza, in philosophy. Her topic this morning is Between Revelation and Conversion, the response of St. Augustine and Paul Claudel. Please help me to welcome Maria with a warm applause.
So thank you very much, and welcome once again. So before I get into this specific topic, I would just like to explain where this presentation comes from and how I end up choosing Paul Claudel, because it's very specific. Inspired in Philip's presentation, I try to be creative. So 2 weeks ago, we had a very good professor visiting us at our university, Professor Jean-Luc Marion. And he gave us an intense course entitled Revelation and Phenomenology. I can never say this word. But it was a very good seminar, and it was a really big surprise for me. So what I will present was a paper I give to the professor in the end of this weekly course. So the professor began by exploring the basic notion of revelation based on his book, Da altrove la rivelazione, in Italiano. And what I will do is apply this basic notion of revelation to two particular cases, one of St. Augustine, which I think is quite well known, and the other one is of Paul Claudel. So the choice of St. Augustine was not difficult because the professor has written a book about him, this book, that I recommend because it's a beautiful book, In Self's Place. But Claudel was chosen because he is part of a generation that appears in the end of beginning of 20th century, which I keep coming back. And I think it's the most precious thing I have to share to you today, because it was, I think, the big discovery of my life. So I think I don't need to recommend the Confessions to anyone, so I will lose 1 minute promoting the book of my life that was written by Raissa Maritain, Jacques Maritain's wife. And we have in all language, so no excuses. Les Grandes Amitiés in French, that was brought by José, grazie mille. We became friends together in English, and for my Brazilian friends, as grandes amizades. So Raissa writes this beautiful sentence in the beginning of the book, even more beautiful in French, but I cannot pronounce it correctly. Our friends are part of our lives, and our life explains our friendships. So it's true, of course, we all experience this, but it's evident in their story, because where it didn't seem possible for Christianity to reborn after the French Revolution in France, especially in the academy, it was very reduced to natural science and relativism and materialism. The grace of God, but their friendships in their sense of the word and the seriousness of the search for truth revived the Catholicism in France in the 20th century. So I will pass quickly in their faces because they are all interconnected, and it's beautifully to explore like how they meet and the letters that they change. It's a precious thing. Like, there is a professor, Piero Viotto, that dedicated all his life studying Maritain, and it's a main source to explore these connections. So, like Léon Blois, Gabriel Marcel, Gabriel Lagrange, Etienne Gilson, Cardinal Journet, Emmanuel Mournier, Peggy, Bernard Knows, they are a lot, like Edith Stein, Simone Weil, Gustave Thibon, Paul VI, Thomas Merton. And it does not end. And the other day I was reading the autobiography of Dorothy Day, and who appears? Jacques Maritain. It does not end. It is beautiful. So, but I could continue, but I will not. So let's continue what to bring here today now. So through Jacques Maritain, I got to know Paul Claudel, this brilliant novelist, I recommend his book also, whose conversion begins with a singular event that takes place in 886, 1,500 years after the event of St. Augustine's conversion. In this cathedral, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, that is a beautiful Gothic cathedral now. After many years, I read he has this beautiful idea that the medieval people prayed so much with their hands like this that one day they remembered of building such a cathedral now. So let's begin, really begin. So here at home, the Angelicum students are always being accused of mentioning St. Thomas too much. So I thought I would bring some phenomenology to confirm how vast our field of knowledge is. Now, is revelation important? Do we need to think about it? Do we need to know what it is? St. Thomas asks in the first article of the first question of Summa Theologiae, is philosophical knowledge enough for us, or do we need another kind of knowledge? His answer is yes, we need another kind of knowledge. What kind of knowledge is that? That which is revealed. So what is it? It is foreign to us. It is something strange that bears no resemblance to our experience. Yes and no. So we are all familiar with the basic notion of revelation that is clearly different from divine revelation, as Aquinas talks about it. But starting from revelation with a small r, we have all had the experience of starting to ride a bike, no? We have all been the scared kid that arrives to the park and tries again and again to pedal and falls and cries until one day, like one random day, we try to do what we have always done, and we threw ourselves forwards in some strange way that we don't really know how, we start riding. And from one moment to the next, we are experts, no? Like this kid, very happy walking around his garden and getting to know places that he never thought he'd see from that perspective. A different notion of space, a whole new fields of possibility. This is a revelation, of course, revelation with a small r, but it is. We have all the experience of hearing our grandmother telling stories about her childhood, always the same stories without ever losing the joy of the first time. And this exercise of our memory is extraordinary, and it's worth reading what St. Augustine writes in the book 10 of Confessions about the great palace of memory, as he called it, because it's a really mystery. And I'm always coming back to a coffee I had with a friend in Portugal, where she made a very metaphysical statement. She told me, nothing seems to happen. And in fact, nothing seems to happen. The days go by and we arrive to the end of the day and we say nothing has happened. And we forget things, and it's a good thing, because it will be terrible to remember everything that we do every second hour or day, you know? There is a short story that written by Jorge Luis Borges, sorry, Spanish friends, but that illustrates how it would be unbearable, and what makes us human is the fact that we can forget things, no? However, this is not true. We don't forget everything, and things really happen. Because when we look at our history, we clearly realize that it's made of moments that we cannot forget, like in our grandmother's stories, no? So unlike the ordinary phenomenon, the experience of a particular event, an unforgettable moment, is, as the word express, not forgotten. It imposes itself. It can be repeated or reproduced because it was unexpected or produced. These unforgettable moments can be really examples of revelation. Even when I'm not totally aware of them, they are there, no? Now, first with the vastness and difficulty of the concept of revelation, and especially revelation with a religious connection, divine revelation if you want, it's important and necessary to address three notions without which it would not be possible to speak about revelation with a big R. No? It's important to clarify that it's not an attempt to say what it is, but what it is not. There is no revelation without a witness, without resistance, and without paradox. So let's start by the first one, being a witness. What primarily authenticates the phenomenon of revelation is that it is overabundant. What is revealed exceeds the measure and the effort of the one who receives. The witness cannot grasp it. He knows it without understanding it. A case that describes this very well is the example of the blind man of the pool of Siloam. He is healed by Jesus. He knows it was Jesus. He knows that he can now see, but when asked where Jesus is and how it happened, he replies, I don't know. One thing I know, he says after, I was blind and now I see. The same goes for Augustine and Paul Claudel. In both cases, they are witnessed through hearing. St. Augustine hears the voice of a girl or a boy. He is not sure, Tolle Lege, as is famously known. Claudel in Notre Dame hears what he later learned to be the Magnificat, but back then he didn't know. So in both cases, there is a voice that imposes itself where it does come from. They exclaim, as a blind man, I don't know. It is important to underline also that Paul Claudel walked in Notre Dame in Christmas Eve, and people go to Notre Dame every day. Everyone there saw what he saw, and at the same time, none of them saw like him. This clarifies that more than seeing is a fact of seeing has. Augustine does a comment in the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, what have you that you have not received? He clarifies that who sees receives not only what he sees, but the very fact of seeing. But faced with the situation that is incomprehensible and apparently without no cause, because it's not a full revelation, of course, the first attitude is the one of resistance, to resist, to refute, no? And at the same time to preserve, to conserve what I already understand, which doesn't threaten the measure of my secure knowledge. So this is the second one, resistance. So the acceptance of the phenomenon of revelation in both cases lasted for years. Paul Claudel's description clearly states, this resistance lasted for years. I dare say that I defended myself well and that the fight was fair and complete. Nothing was forgotten. I used every mean of resistance, and one by one I had to give up weapons that were of no use to me. In fact, the unlimited character of revelation challenged the old field of possibility, or as Marion says, redefines the entire field of possibilities. Revelation is therefore a paradox. I know it and I don't know it. I know it without understanding it. And we need to be attention. It's not a contradiction. A contradiction is something that contradicts itself. It's different. A paradox is that which opposes the previous established concept, the doxa of the resulting expectation. So, example, to clarify, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. It's a paradox, it's not a contradiction. But Henri Lubac, it's a very good source to explore this idea of paradox. Now, what happened with Augustine and Claudel is different. They understand that his voice that imposes itself as a call, and they receive it as a call. As Augustine says in his commentary to the Psalms, what could you do for your conversion except to be called? It's important to underline also there is no call without the possibility of an answer, and in the same way, there is no revelation without a response. And this interpolation, this call, which then becomes a choice, the response, and after a story, a history, it is called conversion. A new man, as Paul Claudel says. Now, Augustine understands this better than no one, and he does not limit the conversion to a singular moment. This is the reason why I think the name of the book is so good, and I like this picture because I usually don't like this picture, but this one I like. Because Augustine reads Romans 13, and he recognizes in himself in what he reads, but he understands that it is for him. He does not receive in a passive way, but he sees his word taken by the word with a big. and make his word, and make the word of God, no, his own word. And this conformity of two wills and two words is the conversion, no? And I'm citating, the content and the goal of conversion coincide in the singular return of my word in and through the word. So I'm going to conclude in a particular way, not academic way, because we need to take advantage that we are in a more familiar event, to share things that we usually will not share in a university. But I think that Augustine, and also Claudel, but especially Augustine, understands this conversion in a more profound sense. So this call to conversion and this response, for me, it's interpreted by Augustine as a daily call, no? And at his beautiful being described by the Annonciation to Marie, the Annunciation to Mary of Paul Claudel, which does not recount the visit of the angel Gabriel to Our Lady, but certainly mirroring his, Claudel's, first call, hearing the Magnificat, addresses the theme of life as a vocation, modeled on the Our Lady response, the one who best welcomed the word of another, no, let it be done according to thy word. So the goal of this book has marvelous being described by Mariella Carlotti, that I heard one time, and she said, life is a river that flows between two banks, the mystery that calls and the freedom of man who responds. This is life as a vocation. Every moment of our life is this, no? And this answer, the single return of my word in and through the word, in every moment of our life, was beautifully described by Hans Balthasar, that I think, yes. Hans Balthasar, that for me it's meant to be explored and to be read. No? We need to read Hans Balthasar. It's mandatory. But when he speaks about the necessity of being a witness, he says, in the end, everything depends on a simple system. One leads towards the self, towards the spiritual personality, the other one towards God, and towards the witness of faith, towards the word, beyond the handmaid of the Lord. Lord, may it be done to me according to your word. Towards this other word, not as I will, but as you will, Father. Christianity is not more difficult than this. I always laugh because it's not so hard. But it's not easy either. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, for this inspirational presentation and for sharing these beautiful stories with us. We have now a few moments for questions. If you would like to ask Maria a question, please raise your hand.
Super, thank you.
While you think of questions, I would like to ask Maria. I love that you mentioned Raisa Maritain and Jacques Maritain. Could you tell us a little bit more about their conversion stories?
Let's go back to their faces because it's good to look at him. No? So, like, their life is the most beautiful love story I ever read, and I really love novels. No, so they met. They came from different places, and they meet in Sorbonne, at Sorbonne. And he was Protestant, raised Protestant. I don't know. They have a lot of things happening in their lives. But the beautiful thing for me is that they asked with their lives. So they took the question of their lives and the meaning of their lives in such a serious way that they even thought about suicide. So they had a conversation where they said, let's search for the meaning of truth and for the meaning of our studies. And if we don't find, we will kill ourselves now. And for us, it's very radical. But for them, it was such a serious way of asking. And for me, it was very important because I realized that I was created to desire like this and to study like this. No, like our studies need to be these relevance and yes, but their story is it's very good. He's not here, but they so they meet Leon Blois first, and the conversion happens with Leon Blois that writes beautiful novels also, and through Leon Blois they get to know Henrique Bergson, that at least introduced to them like some philosophy that was not condemned to natural science. So Raisa says that for the first time she read Plutino, and she said, I read Plutino and I kissed the book because it's like awesome. And after through Peggy, that is this one, with a little bit of color, that Anzus Balthazar said that no one has written more in a more Christian way, no? So that Peggy writes poetry very well. And through Peggy, they got to know the Dominicans, Humberto Clarissac, and after Jacques Maritain became a very good, important Thomist of the 20th century, and they have a big conversion also, and deeply reading St. Thomas and with the Dominicans, yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Very good.
Everything super clear.
Next time, St. Thomas.
I have a question about the church. Where is the church, the beautiful Gothic church?
In France.
In France, where?
Someone helps me? Paris? No.
Yes.
Paris.
In Paris.
Yes, Notre Dame.
Is it Notre Dame?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's another question in the back.
Uh-oh, I was almost leaving.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for this presentation. Now, I would like to ask you, what relationship do you see between the conversion of Claudel or Augustine and I think the poetical inspiration, which is so strong by Claudel, and I think for Balthasar, kind of aesthetic way of finding God. Is there an analogy or something more than that? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. How they okay. So I think I understood more or less. So how they are connected, like the conversion. I think they are. It's a conversion that happened. No, it's a moment that is clearly identified, and this sometimes. What? The inspiration. Okay. Very good. I don't know. I'm always thinking like everything contributes for the good of the ones who love God, no? And I also like a sentence of a Jesuit priest that says, everything that rises converge. So everything that rises converge. And so somehow like they arrive to the same point by different means, no? And it's evident for us that what we discover studying St. Thomas is different what I discovered reading Leon Blois or Bernanos, no? But it's the same man, it's the same wound, it's the same meaning, it's the same heart, it's the same desire. So in the end, it's the same word, no? That they incarnate in their lives, and so the inspiration comes.
Thank you, Maria.
But you are not clear. It was not your question. It was not your question. Poetry.
Like Claudel, for instance, no?
Yes.
He was a great poet.
Yes. Yes.
He was so important
Yes.
that Balthasar even translated his works.
Yes.
Found a tremendous inspiration
Yes.
for his theological work.
Mm-hmm. True.
No.
True.
So it seems that the poetry It's a very, very important role in the creation and of the work of this man.
Yes.
And I wonder to what extent that it has to do with the inspiration which moved him to convert. I don't know if I'm clear.
I hope I am understanding.
To put it simple, I mean, the relationship between the conversion, which moves him to convert,
Yes.
and the inspiration through which he
for the
creates
poetry.
poetry.
Yes, of course. He writes many works after his conversion, and as he says, he's a new man. No, of course, everything that he writes after he had 18 years old in Notre Dame, he takes a 4 years. So after he's a diplomat, but everything that he does after is influenced by that moment. No, it's a change of life. He decided. He makes a choice. No, he decides, and of course the inspiration comes for the fact that he prays, that he practices what we see a unity of life, and we see it also in Marita and all of these not all, but in many, in Bernanos, you see a unity of life that somehow we find in our professors at university many times, at least in my experience. But it's a unity of life. They say what they pray, and they pray what they teach. And so yes, the inspiration of the poetry certainly comes for the fact that he met Christ and that he prays and that he's a Christian man. And yes, and this is the reason why he has a lot to offer. A lot to offer us. And poetry sometimes arrives before. We have a Portuguese writer that says that the poet is the one that sees first. Sees first. But in the end, the most beautiful poem is the Magnificat. No.
So thank you, Maria. Help me to thank her again.